Very interesting question. Um, there is a profound shift in pharma's portfolio, as you would see in the last 5 years. They are moving from high volume specialty to rare diseases, cell gene therapies. So these are all very niche areas with a very limited population base. It needs a significant scientific engagement with your customers. It needs a complex administration of the product because they are infusions or there is a aftercare need for the patients. So pharma has been struggling with how to cope with the demand from various angles. One, obviously, market access side, how to shape the market, how to shape the product, how do I communicate the scientific, economic value of the product. Third, how do I shape my internal organizations, which traditionally had high volume business and are traditional models, which are not fitting into my future portfolio. I think this may be the opportunities to revolutionize with the power of data, Gen AI, agentic AI, where you can think of number of use cases, number of real world examples as we see in the form of searching, curating, summarizing your value dossiers via approaches, automating your workflows because there is a cross collaboration needed between medical, market access, sales functions, patient engagement, which is a critical component nowadays. So it needs a significant collaboration between these functions, and think about the complexity of the product and the data it needs, because most of the time they are all first in line therapies. There is no real standard in the market on how to price it, how to evaluate it. So there are loads of complexities in the current situation. So AI can revolutionize, helping them to accelerate the launches by helping them, dossier creation, workflow automation, giving them insights into the market. What could be the right messaging for the right set of customers, whether it is payers, provider communities, patient communities. So huge potential. Can it revolutionize? Yes. But it's an incremental change what we are seeing in the market, though there is an aspiration to totally, radically transform. But I think customers, what we see is incrementally taking step towards the transformed state.
Yeah, and I think there'll be like two fundamental shifts which I see happening, just to add on to what you said, Kumar, right? One is like the science has advanced quite a lot to offer you the capability of personalized medication, but the cost and the overhead that made it very prohibitive till date to make it happen in real life. I think the AI technologies offer you an opportunity to make it cost effective for the targeted population, which is not going to be in the large millions of patients, but in like hundreds and thousands of patients. Because without using a generative AI, you'd never be able to afford the cost of personalized medication. The other big fundamental impact I see is that while the launch planning actually happens way ahead of the actual launch, with AI, you have a real-time opportunity to integrate launch planning right at the research level, to the manufacturing point, to the supply chain point, right? So all of these decisions you make in terms of which molecules to research further or which therapies to research further, how do you actually build your manufacturing capabilities, what kind of supply chain you build, will be very much driven by how AI supports that personalized medication, which wasn't feasible before. So big shift happening, that's for sure. So what I've seen over the years is the complexity of these new therapies has increased 1,000-fold, right? We've seen new modalities of treatments come into picture. We talked about cell and gene therapies, rare diseases treatments. They bring with them their own challenges. The supply chain of these medicines is overly complex. You need to have diagnostic and treatment centers which are local to your target populations, with the right equipments and support in place. If you look at the commercial aspects of it, the time to market has shrinked because of the competitive pressure and the dynamic market conditions. So you don't want to actually be taking weeks or months to launch a new product. You want to be first one to be to the market to get the maximum leverage and to get access to those patients who need that treatment as well, right? And the third aspect is, of course, the scenarios with the geopolitical and social factors, which are quite dynamic at the moment. It's shifting very quickly. So you want to have different deterministic aspects of what could you plan for as a contingency when you create these new gene therapies, new treatments, therapies, etc. So these challenges are very, very, very complex to what we've been used to deal with over the years. But I think that's where kind of AI comes to provide real support. So if I look at each of those problems, so if I look at supply chain, for example, the shift is actually creating a network of local and global supply chains with self-filling capabilities. So if, for example, one of the regions impacted because of unseen force circumstances, we've seen that with COVID and so on, you have a backup mechanism to continue the treatment to the patients. When you're trying to kind of create patient engagement for these new therapies, which could be quite complex, and your patient population is much smaller in size, how do you make it more effective by bringing real life patient experiences and personalizing your patient engagement models? AI could actually make a huge difference to how you approach that problem as well, right? And most importantly, I think it's going to shift how pharmas think about bringing medicines to the market more quickly and to address those unmet needs in patients, which hasn't been feasible before. I see a lot of opportunities going forward.
We are seeing market level, real world examples, mostly tuned towards supply chain R&D side, inward looking cases where customers are, for a customer interaction, for an example, they want to use agentic AI to enable internal teams so that they are effective. Examples, publicly available examples, Novo Nordisk is a good example. Protocol, clinical study protocol is an important document. How do you run a clinical trial? I was seeing in the news, and there was a public announcement where they reduced it. It takes months to put together a clinical study protocol. With the agentic AI and Gen AI, I think they've reduced it to a few days, or if not a week. So the acceleration, think about clinical study protocols play a huge role in how do you conduct a clinical trial. That's one big part of it. Second example, again, I'm quoting, not, barring confidentiality, I need to quote what is publicly available. Bayer announced a enterprise search, which is agentic AI, Gen AI based, if I'm not wrong. I think it is predominantly Gen AI powered, where you can search. It's kind of a knowledge base. Anything what you want to find internally to Bayer employees. Now, statistically, we know 40% of the company's employee effort goes in searching for things which they need to conduct their job. Now, it may be small things what we are talking about here, but when you aggregate them, they all contribute to the faster launches and quicker turnarounds, whether it is a dossier generation, quicker approvals, some of these cycles. Content generation is another area, hugely important for pharma. And Gen AI is playing already a massive role in how to create personalized content, how to get them approved, because there is a process called MLR, medically, legally, regulatory wise, it should be approved before it goes to the public domain. Now that has been a bottleneck. Gen AI is playing, at least in my knowledge, at least 10 companies which I'm aware of have made significant progress in shortening that content supply chain and scaling it up to have that versatility and hyper-personalized approach to appeal to multiple. It may be the same core messaging, but tell it in different ways. So you can empower that content generation engine with Gen AI. I hope I've given you a few examples.
I'm more than optimistic. I think there's a stark realization with the industry that there's a change coming. people are open to adopt to that change and the opportunity that it provides to make a real impact in patient healthcare while being socially responsible, while being sustainable as an organization. And AI is actually helping as an accelerator to achieve those targets. So there's a lot to look forward to in the industry in the coming years.
I'm optimistic. There is a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding because it's coming up as a newer technology, newer approach to solve problems. There is enough opportunity for us to streamline things, make the things efficient, but also look at untapped areas of opportunities, untapped diseases. So we are all here to put patients, at the center. So there are many, many undiagnosed rare diseases today, which is commercially not viable for pharmaceutical companies to pick it up. So the freed up dollars, which I'm assuming, will help us to target more rare diseases. We have, last I read, around 300, 400 types of cancers. So everything needs a very precise approach. And that's where our ability to synthesize data will be a big boost to what we can do.